Hello everyone, today we'll be making a hip resurfacing implant, and this is going to be a simple design where we're actually seeing how this implant, which is actually a very unique one since it doesn't radiate into the femoral shaft, hence taking away the bad effects of stress shielding. So it reduces that stress shielding effect that can damage the bone and make it deteriorate. And this is because it doesn't radiate down, and it anchors onto the femur itself and actually remodels the top, hence the name, and it's able to get the same benefits, but it has much longer durability, and you're actually able to customize it with different types of ceramic or titanium to reduce the effect and also increase the biocompatibility. So first thing we're going to do here is once you log into your Onshape account, you're going to click create and then document. And in the document, you can put whatever name you want. So hip resurfacing implant, and then you click create. So now that you click create, we see that there's three planes here. So these three planes are front, top, and right. So we're going to be using the front plane. So we're going to click sketch and then front, and then we're going to click the green check button. So that secures our sketch on the front plane. And you can also see there's this little cube in the top right here, and that's used to navigate around the entire modeling plane. So we're in the front, so you can go anywhere around, but then once you get here, you can click on the front, and then it repositions everything to how you want. So getting some inspiration from this type of design, we're going to make this type of design on the sketch itself, and then we're going to rotate it around this axis. So then we have this sort of circular device, but we only need this one sketch, and then we rotated it to make it easier. So you can see, just kind of keep this in mind, and this is what we're trying to go towards. Okay, so now we're starting out. So we hit sketch. You can double tap on sketch if you click out of it, and you have this toolbar on top. So this toolbar gives you different access to different types of shapes, different types of functions, if you want to connect different pieces, and it has such a variety of things that we're not going to go through all of it right now, but we're going to use some of these tools. So one of the tools is these shapes. So right here we have all the shapes. We have lines, rectangles, circles, splines, pentagons, or like polygons, and all of those. So we're going to be using a center point circle right here. And if you're not seeing the center point circle, you can click on the right down arrow right here, and then you're going to get a little drop down menu, and then you can click on center point circle. Or if it gives you the little shortcut here, which is just C. So you can just hit C on your keyboard, and then you'll get a circle. So then you have your plus sign, and then you can go to the center axis, the origin, and then you click around. So you can just drag out the circle, and then you click down, and then now you can see that there is a blue line. So blue line means that the sketch is not constrained. That means that there's not any specific measurement that the shape is taking into account in order to build the type of model that you want. So right now, because it's blue, you can actually drag the circle anywhere you want. And this could actually have bad effects, because if you're changing things or it's not constrained, that means that if you share it or you're trying to print it, it could change every time. And even if you move it, you wouldn't know that you moved it because there is no constraint. And many things are dependent on this shape as well. So having these measurements is very important. So once you create the shape, then you usually get a little text box. But what happened is that we clicked out of it, so the text box is gone. So in this case, we can hit dimension. So the dimension button is actually when you click D. So you can hit D on your keyboard, and that's also up here in the toolbar, dimension for D. And then you can click back on the circle. And now you get this text box again. You can click out, and we have it here. So right now, the general radius of the femur head is around 1.6 inches. So we can go with that. And whenever you're making some sort of measurement, that's not the default. So you saw before there's a centimeter that showed up. But we're going to do this assignment in inches. And so whenever you're doing that, you can specify IN for inches, and you hit enter. And then it constrains it and makes it white. So when it's gray and white, that means that it's constrained. and it has a measurement here. And then you get this text box that you can move around to whatever feels better for the viewing experience. So now that we have that, we're going to start making the sketch on here. So as you saw before, we have this sort of inspiration, and we're going to go around and make that sort of sketch. So now we're going to take a line, so there's all the functions here, right? So we're going to go to the line function, or you can hit L on your computer, and then we're going to go from the origin right here, which lights up with the yellow, orange box type thing, and then you can just move up. So when you move up along the y-axis, it can actually cling to the y-axis to make sure that the line is vertical, and it has dotted the dotted yellow line thing as well. So that's helpful when you're trying to make some sort of line from the vertical or horizontal axis. And then you can click anywhere. It doesn't matter how long it is right now because now we see that the text box showed up and we can actually make that constraint. So we're going to make it around 1.5 inches. So once we make that, we constrain that, and we're going to make a little type of trapezoid-like shape here. So now we're going to go down from here because we're going to go below the axis. Same thing, we can click L on your keyboard or you can go to the toolbar menu and then we click down. And whenever we have this, like, whenever you click on a line and you click down, it automatically makes sure that you can have like another line if you're making multiple lines here. But if you want to get out of that, you can just click the escape button. So when you click the escape button, it's like that. And now we're going to click D, or you can go to dimension, and we're going to go on this little line right here. So we're going to make this bottom line 0.4 inches. Okay, and then after this, now we're going to make a small line outwards. So we're going to click here, we're going to click on L, we're going to click from this dot, and we're going to make a horizontal line. So you can click anywhere, horizontally, and we're going to make this line 0.2 inches. So now that we have that, we have this extra line as well. And now we're going to click escape. And we're going to also make one tiny line up here. So that's going to be, as same thing, we just make it as long as we want. And we're going to start typing. We're going to make this 0.1 inches. Okay, so now we have the top line here and the bottom line here. In order to make the long radiating axis here, the shaft in the model for the hip implant, we're going to connect both of these points together by hitting L and then click there. And we can see that even though we didn't input a measurement here, it is constrained because both the other lines are constrained here. So now that we have that, that's cool. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make the the globe that goes around the implant. So we're going to click L again. We're going to start from this point, and then we're going to go outwards. Or you can start from this point as well. We're going to click L, we start from this point, and just go horizontally. Go horizontally, and we want this to be around 0.65 inches. And we see that it came to the very edge. And now we have this extra line, we're going to go up, and we're going to go until it hits the very top of the circle. So when you see, like, the circle lights up when it turns yellow, and that means that you're in contact with the circle. So even though you're a little bit further away, when it's lighting up yellow, that means that you're in contact. So you're going to become vertical, and then you're going to connect with the circle again. And then it turns gray, which means it's constrained. And if you're not sure that it's vertical, there's also these functions here, this vertical line function, and then you can just click it, and you can click on the line, and then it turns vertical automatically as well. So now that we have that, we have the general idea of what our implant is going to look like. And now, all we need to do is actually rotate it. So in order to rotate it, we need to have just one side of the sketch that we can rotate around this axis. So now we see that this portion right here is actually connected all throughout. So we're going to have to divide it up as well into like separate halves. So we're going to click, get a line function, go from this corner all the way down to when it touches the circle, and then click down. And sometimes you get errors, So we can just make sure that we click on the line function and click on the circle. That's cool. And now you can see that this is also just lighting up with a little border. When there's a border, that means that that shape is also constrained there. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to select these little pieces. We're going to select this top piece, this middle piece, and this bottom piece together. And now you can start seeing the sort of shape that this implant is going to become. So we're going to click all of those, and we can go to searching tools. So many times, if you're not sure where a tool is, or there's a lot of tools in Onshape especially. So just for um, like just to save time, I guess, you can go to search tools, and then you can search revolve. So you can see that it also has a shortcut here, which is Shift W. So you can click the revolve function, and then it selects all of those things that you selected from beforehand, and it pastes it into this solid function here. And this is automatic. And now all you need to do is select your revolve axis. Where is this shape, this plane going to revolve around? So that's going to revolve around the y-axis. So you're going to click revolve axis, and then you're going to see some of these things light up, and you're going to choose the y-axis here. And after that, it's going to do some calculations, and it's actually going to make up our model. And then once we are satisfied, we can click the check button. And now we have the implant here. So this is a very simple implant. But as you guys may have noticed, well, congratulations first of all, good job on making the implant. And now the second part is actually, we can name it. So we can go into part 1 and you can rename it. And this can be the implant itself. We're going to say hip implant. So this is for concise's sake. And now we need to have the lining. So we can go back to the image here, and you can see there's this outer lining that goes onto the pelvic girdle that actually helps with making the movement soft of the ball and socket joint. So we made the implant part of it now, but we also need to make the part that goes inside of the pelvic girdle that helps. The lining is what it's called, to reduce inflammation, to reduce the friction itself as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make that part itself. So we're going to go back to Sketch, we're going to double click on Sketch, and we can see all the sketches that we have here from the previous version. And now we're going to make another circle. We can either we can try a new feature here. Instead of making a circle, we can try to do an offset. So offset is when you select a sort of shape and you can select the shape, and you can select the distance that you want the same sort of shape to be around. So here we have a circle, we click it on a circle, and it makes another circle around it, and we can specify the distance that we want it to be. So right here, because we don't want too much space, but we also want to reduce the friction, we can make it around 0.1 inches. And now we see that the distance between both of these circles is actually 0.1 inch. Okay, now that we have that, this is the distance between it, but this is not what the lining is itself. So we actually have to make another circle, or offset. So you can offset it off of the new offset that we just made, and then same thing. And then this is how wide the lining is, in essence. So we don't want it to be too wide because it might not be practical for surgery itself if it's too wide. But we also don't want it to be too fragile so it's easy or prone to break. So you can have it around 0.2 inches. So then if you lose it here, you can click here and you can double click on the text box that appears and you can say 0.2 inches. Okay, cool. And now we have our outer circle. And if it seems like this looks like it might be a bit too wide for what we actually want, so I can say maybe 0.15 inch. And then we have this here. But now this is just one huge concentric circle around the original sketch. As you can see, like the entire thing is shaded. So we want to divide this up. If we're going to do the same thing, we're going to rotate it around the y-axis. So we're going to split it in half. So we're going to click L, and then we're going to go from the origin here all the way down to the edge of the circle. And then it's going to constrain, and then same thing, but half. And then from the origin all the way to the edge here. Okay? And now we have this tiny section here. So the thing with the lining is that because this is a circular, the model has a circular feature to it, if we have the lining a bit here, it's actually harder to place the implant into the lining itself because the top part of it, like the top part here, to place the implant in, is smaller than the largest diameter of the circle, the diameter of the circle. So we actually want it to be only half of it, or up until the largest point is the diameter, or larger than the diameter. So we're going to do half of it. So that's why we cut it into 4 pieces. So now that we have it here, same thing, we're going to revolve it. So we're going to go to search tools, or you can hit Shift W, hit revolve, and then click the revolve axis. And then now you see that we actually, it's harder to see. So now we can see that the sketch here, we can go to the sketch and we can actually say show sketch. We can hit show sketch and then we click the y-axis. And then it creates this for us and we click the check mark. And now we see that there's some sort of, like the initial model actually got broken between it. And we're not sure why that happened. But if we go back to the sketch, we can see that since we made this extra circle, it actually interacted with the original sketch. So what we can do here to get rid of this is go to the first revolving, and then we can select this little portion, and then once you select that, you just click on it, and then you can click center, or click yes again, and then it'll make it. And now we have our lining, and and the implant. But we also see some parts were also done the same thing, so we can go back to revolve, because this part wasn't included either. So we can click on that, and that'll add the top circular part as well. So just have that in mind. If it looks weird, that might be because some of the sections weren't selected, or we have to go back and reselect it because of how we made the sketch itself. So that should be in mind. So we can click here, and then it's practically made. And you can go back, you can rename it, you can say lining. That's cool. And then if you don't like seeing the sketch, you can hit the hide button again. That's cool. And so now we have our 2 parts. We have the implant, but also if you don't like to see this plane, you can click P on your computer, or you can go ahead and just hide all of those. So now we have both of those. We have the implant and we have the lining, and the last thing we can do is actually change the appearances and materials in Onshape. So either you can go here, you can select the parts. So these two are separate parts. These they are revolved separately. And we can click here and we can say, you can right click and we can say edit appearance. So you can change the colors that you want. If you like different colors or you want the implant to be different colors, you can choose whatever you want. I'm just going to go with this grayish blue color. And you can click yes, and then same thing with the lining, and then edit appearance, and like that. And the other thing is you can actually assign materials. So as I said in the beginning, these types of implants have a huge variety. So it can go from ceramics to plastics to metals like such as titanium or aluminum, and all of these different things are there. And in Onshape, this material option actually helps you with seeing the different types of weights or volumes that the model that you created might assume. So once you assign a material, it can calculate the weight of it, it can create the volume it's going to have, and it can compare these different objects because Onshape is used for like large manufacturing companies as well. So these are very important features for them. But it can also be for us as students. So here, we can click on here, and we can go through, we can see which type of materials we want to have. So since we're in the hip implant, we can make the hip implant such as titanium. Let's try typing, and then hit titanium, and you can add the titanium feature. It doesn't change the color because we get to change the color in here, but it actually adds it in. I think it might show it in the analysis tools. You can see the different types that they have it here. So yeah, then you can go to the lining, and then you can see assign material, and then we're gonna say ceramic or porcelain. And click center and the check mark, and then we're all done. And in order to do a section view, which is where we can see, like it's like a plane that cuts through and see the cross section of the model itself. You can go here to the little cube over here. You click all the way to the bottom section view, and then we select a plane. So now our planes are gone because we clicked P. So you can click P again to make all the planes come back, or click the I button again here. And then we can zoom out, and we want the plane to be the front plane. And we don't want to exclude any items, so we just say click yes. And now, if we go to the side, we can see this cross section that has appeared here. And we can go back at the section view, and we have this little arrow that comes up. So you can pull it frontwards or backwards, and that helps you with seeing the interaction between the materials. You're making sure that there's nothing that is colliding between both of them, so that they're separate pieces. Because if they're like really close together, sometimes that means you might have made mistakes that they were intersecting instead of separate. So that helps you with also visualizing the proportions itself. And if there's any weak spots. So it seems like this may be a little weak spot in our model here, but depending on the types of materials and all of those, it may not. But those are some things that we have to be on the lookout for. And yeah, and we just click the check right here, and then if you want to turn it off, go back there and click turn off section view. But yeah, that's the general idea, and we created our model and the lining kit. And if you want to change anything, same thing. It's called parametric, so you can go back and change anything that you want. So you go back to sketch, and if you feel like the space between it's too much, you just go back to sketch, click here on front, and then you can hit dimension, or we already created some. So if we say 0.1 inch is too much, then we can say maybe 0.05 inch, and it'll decrease a little bit. And then we can hit center, and it updates everything, so everything is much together. So you can just play around with it, and that was a simple demonstration of how to make a hip resurfacing implant. And now once we're all done with that, we can right click here, and if you want to print it, you can hit export. You can change the name of it, and then you have to make sure that's in the STL format. Then you say export, and it prints for you in the top. And then now, you can see this later, but you have to you can go through the Fab Lab to print it, which uses 3D OS. And using that, you can just send it to the printers in the Fab Lab asynchronously and virtually. So you just send it, and then they send you an email back of when it's done printing, and you can go collect it as well. And yeah, that's it. I hope you guys learned a lot, and thank you so much.